Go ahead and start.
I'll let you know when we're live.
And my computer's working.
Well, that's good.
Jeepers, what a time.
You were entertaining the last time, so.
I mean, 6 seconds is all it would last.
We
What
are
type
live.
of connection? Yeah,
All right.
Peter.
Good morning, everyone. We are live and ready to go. And I am Senator Jim Dill. I'm the chair of the IFW committee, and I want to welcome everybody watching us and watching on YouTube. The first thing we'll do is go around and introduce ourselves, and I'll start with Representative John Martin.
Good morning, everyone. John Martin, House District 151, and that's from Allagash to Fort Kent, down Road 11 to Oxbow.
Rick Mason, Representative.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator Dill. I'm Rick Mason, District 56, for the great people of Lisbon.
Representative Ordway.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lester Ordway. I represent District 23, which is most of the town of Standish.
Representative Lyford.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator Dill. Peter Lyford, District 129, which is Clifton, Eddington, Holden, Northborough, and Vesey.
Representative Neto.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Senator Jill. Kathy Neto here, representing District 78, which is Winslow and a small portion of Benton. Thank you.
House Chair Landry.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator Dill. I'm Scott Landry. I represent the towns of Farmington and New Sharon that comprise District 113.
Representative Danny Martin.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Senate Chair. My name is Danny Martin. I represent House 150, located in northern Worcester County.
Representative Hepler.
Good morning. Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm Allison Hepler. I represent the House, the towns of Arousik, Georgetown, Phippsburg, Woolwich, where I live, Dresden, and part of Richmond.
Senator Curry.
Morning, Mr. Chair. I'm Senator Chip Curry, and I represent the 26 rural, coastal, and island communities of Waldo County.
And Representative Terrio. I'll come back to you just in a second. I'll introduce the clerk and analyst. Linda LaCroix is our clerk, and Linda keeps the ball rolling here for us today. And John Clark is our analyst, who will be taking notes and helping us through the tough situations. And with that, I will go back to Representative Terrio to introduce himself.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I'm Representative Tim Terrio. I represent District 79, which is Albion, most of Benton, China, and Unity Plantation.
We heard you loud and clear, and we can see you. So
you can see me.
Yeah, we can see you.
Oh, wow.
We will go ahead here with what we have today. Today's public hearings. We have 3 public hearings scheduled for this morning. And of course, as you all know, as it is a public hearing, wait to be called upon and make sure you are asking a question, that it's not just a comment, and it's only the committee members that can ask the questions and move forward. And as I say, what we will do is we will run the meeting in the following format, that we will have sponsors, co-sponsors, and legislators speak first, followed by the department, followed by people for the bill, then against the bill, and finally neither for nor against the bill. And I would just tell everybody up front, I have a list and I will go by that list. So be sure when you get up there and you introduce yourself, you say whether you're for or against, or neither for nor against, in case we have it wrong on our list. We want to make sure we record you the correct way that you want to be recorded. And then after you speak, you'll have 3 minutes for your testimony, and then we'll ask the questions from the committee. And with that, we will get started. And as I say, the first bill up this morning is I'm going to open the public hearing on LD 635, an act to repeal the requirement to obtain a permit before hunting with a noise suppression device. and that is Senator Stewart, and I see Senator Stewart on my screen. So with that,
Hello.
welcome today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I just need to pull up my testimony here. Oh man. Here it is. $6.35. Great. Senator Dill, Representative Landry, and members of the Committee on Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. I'm Senator Trey Stewart, and I have the distinction of representing 51 communities in Aroostook and Penobscot counties. And I'm here before you today to present LD 635, an act to repeal the requirement to obtain a permit before hunting with a noise suppression device. This bill comes to me by way of the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation, who informed me last year that Maine is one of the only states in the nation that charges a fee in order to apply for a permit to use a suppressor on a firearm. After doing some research on this issue and talking with the American Suppressor Association, it became clear to me that it's important Maine reduce barriers to sportsmen and women attaining suppressors to protect their hearing. Thankfully, representatives from both the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation and the American Suppressor Association are here with us today, who you will hear from soon. By ensuring that Maine sportsmen can access suppressors legally, we can help to reduce instances of hearing impairment and loss of those who frequently use firearms. Ultimately, given that Maine Care is one of the largest providers of health insurance coverage in the state, this bill will actually save money in the long run from the state's coffers. Passing this bill will also put us in line with other states who do not charge their sportsmen and women for applying for suppressor permits. Thank you for your time and consideration of this legislation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have this time.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions for Senator Stewart? Representative Danny Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Stewart, is your concern about the fee or the authorization that the commissioner currently has? Because your bill repeals the entire statute.
I believe that the concern is more on the side of the fee, and that the fee is the barrier to entry there. But you'll hear shortly from some of the folks who are experts in that could talk more about the impact of that.
Thank you, Senator.
Are there any other questions for the Senator? Seeing none, thank you for your sponsoring of the bill and testimony this morning. Are there any other sponsors or legislators that want to speak on this bill? Seeing none, I don't think there's anybody in the waiting room for.
No, there's no one.
Okay, next up will be Colonel Dan Scott, followed by Knox Williams, Joseph Mullen, and Lauren LePage. So,
Senator Bill.
Yep, good morning.
Representative Landry and members of the IFW committee, I'm Dan Scott, Colonel of the Warden Service, speaking on behalf of the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife in support of LD 635. This bill repeals the provision of law allowing the Commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to issue permits to use noise suppression devices with firearms while hunting. A little bit of history. In June of 2015, the 127th passed Public Law 262, an act to permit the use of firearms noise suppression devices in hunting to provide for a chief law enforcement officer's certification for certain firearms. That particular law was scheduled to sunset July 31st, 2018. This allowed the department to issue suppressor permits to applicants upon successful completion of a Fish and Wildlife background check. All those permits were set to expire July 31st, 2018, when the law sunsetted. During that time, there was a fee that was charged. I believe it was $12. I'm not 100% sure. In April of 2018, the 128th legislature passed Public Law 366, an act regarding the termination of the authority to issue a permit for a noise suppression device on a firearm for hunting. This allowed the department to continue issuing suppressor permits, and the permits would remain valid unless revoked by the department. So in theory, in 2018, just before the sunset law took place, we removed the sunset and we removed the fee. So we haven't been charging a fee since 2018. Since 2015, the department has issued in excess of 500 permits, with new permit applications coming in almost weekly. To date, no permit has been denied, nor has a permit been revoked. We appreciate the legislature's conservative approach to the use of this technology and feel it is now appropriate to repeal the requirement for the Title 12 permit based on the past 5 years worth of data. To be clear, though, this does not remove the federal requirements to possess a suppressor. There will continue to be a federal background check conducted on individuals who apply to possess a suppressor, and the current law that makes it an aggravated penalty to violate a hunting law with a suppressor will stay in place, and we would ask that this penalty remains in effect. I'll be glad to answer any questions at this time or during the work session. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Lightfoot.
Thank you, Senator Dill. Colonel, what's the, I thought the only people that were supposed to have knowledge of firearm registration and suppressor registration was the ATF. Is that correct or incorrect?
I'm not 100% sure of what you're referring to. My understanding with this process is when somebody wants to buy a suppressor for hunting, they go out, they identify their suppressor. I think they have to identify the specific one they're going to purchase. They fill out their federal paperwork, which I think it's called a tax certificate. The feds conduct a federal background check on them. None of that has anything to do with us at this point, because they may then go and take it and target practice with it. If they decide that they then want to use it for hunting purposes, if they're approved by the feds and they get the suppressor, they come to us with a copy of their federal tax certificate or their suppressor permit, so to speak, from the feds. And we conduct a Title 12 background check on them to see if they were ever convicted of a crime that resulted in a mandatory revocation, like night hunting or exceeding the bag limit on deer. If that is not the case, then we issued the permits.
Just to follow up, if I could, I know the scouts have been wanting to use them too in target practice, and so I think they are using them at the Camp Roosevelt in Eddington. It's been a big help too. So thank you, sir.
Sure, they definitely have become more popular amongst young hunters and people who are concerned about their hearing and shooting sports.
Representative Hepler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess a couple of questions actually now, since you just talked about the with young hunters, are is there information given to, or do you hear of any complaints from landowners about hunters using suppressors? That I've heard that people want to know that hunters are in the area.
I recall back when the law first came into effect in 2015, it was fairly controversial. That's why we took such a conservative approach with the sunset clause, and then revisiting it in 2018, and again revisiting it now. The Warden Service hasn't received any complaints regarding people using suppressors. That may be because folks don't know if somebody's using one or not. They're not completely silent. They get very quiet, but depending on the caliber of firearm you use and the type of ammunition you use, they're not completely silent. There was some discussions back in 2015 about, being able to hear the report of the rifle. Not only did that allow landowners to know if somebody was on their property, but it allowed, law enforcement and our staff to know that as well. But there's so many methods now by which people hunt, either with archery or crossbows, or again, we issued about 500 of these suppressor permits, and we've had limited number of situations with them that we feel that it would be appropriate to repeal this law, as long as the penalty for hunting illegally with one stays in place.
Okay. Thank you.
Representative Landry.
Thank you, Senator Dill. Colonel Scott, have there been any convictions at all of anybody using a suppressor in Maine?
No, sir. Because if there was a conviction, we would have revoked their permit, and we haven't denied a permit, and we have not revoked one. Now, there's a possibility that the reason we haven't denied one is folks who have had some criminal fish and game history didn't bother applying for it, knowing that there would be a background check done. So that those numbers may change a little bit, but they haven't been a problem, so to speak, on the landscape for us anyway.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Colonel Scott? Seeing none, thank you, Colonel. Next to testify for is Knox Williams.
Thank you very much, Chairman Dill. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Chairman Dill and Chairman Landry and everyone else, thank you very much for giving us the time and opportunity to testify in support of LD 635. To answer kind of some of the questions that have been posed from our perspective, the legislative intent of this is to basically take away a hurdle for law-abiding hunters in the state of Maine, both who live in the state of Maine or folks like myself who have come to the state of Maine to hunt, and give them an easier path to be able to use a device that they've lawfully obtained in order to help protect their hearing while they're in the field. We know through peer-reviewed research that hunting is one of the biggest threats to hearing in our country. And anytime someone pulls a trigger with a firearm without proper and adequate hearing protection, they are risking permanent and irreversible hearing damage. And from our perspective, that's very unnecessary, and suppressors are a tool that really help to mitigate that. I went through the process shortly after we helped legalize suppressor hunting in the first place in 2015. And it took over a month for me to get my permit. I nearly missed it on the hunt that I went on, where I actually harvested that bear, which is likely one of the first bears harvested with a suppressed firearm in the state of Maine. And really, from our perspective, this is a win-win. For IFW, it'll help free up resources to be able to apply them to places that are really able to make a difference, take away some of the paperwork from them, and administrative burden. And for the hunters of the state, it'll encourage them and give them an easier path to be able to protect their hearing while they're in the field. I've heard a couple questions on the process to obtain a firearm suppressor. That is a federal process. In order to purchase one, an applicant will have to go to a licensed firearms dealer, submit what's called an ATF Form 4 to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. With that, and with each suppressor that they purchase, they're paying a $200 transfer tax. So if you bought 2 suppressors, you're spending $400 just on that transfer tax. You're submitting a notification to your local chief law enforcement officer. The ATF takes all of that. They send your information to the FBI. The FBI runs an extensive background check. And once they get that background check back, and if you're approved, they will then approve your purchase. The process is incredibly variable, not through statute, but just because it's a very inefficiently run process at ATF. But right now, that's taking anywhere from an average of 6 months to 18 months. So you could wait a year and a half. You could purchase one today and not be able to hunt with it until the end of 2022. That's not entirely uncommon. So from our perspective, these people are already being vetted by the federal government, don't really know what additional vetting IFW is able to do on top of that, really, that would provide any sort of a value add. So that's really kind of the intent of this bill and why we worked with the Congressional Sportsman's Foundation and Senator Stewart to hopefully address this. And Representative Hepler, to your question about landowners being able to hear people while they hunt. We hunt a lot down here in Georgia, and we have a piece of property that we're fortunate enough to get the opportunity to hunt on that's about 8,000 or so acres. And every year we take about 15 to 20 people out hunting with us. Everyone's using suppressed firearms, and we spread out throughout the entirety of the property. And to put that in perspective, 8,000 acres is about 2/3 the size of Manhattan. So it's a very large parcel, especially for East Coast standards. Anytime someone pulls a trigger, you can hear the report of the firearm. The suppressor only muffles and mitigates the actual muzzle blast, which is the explosion that propels the bullet out of the end of the barrel. When those gases hit cold air, that's part of the noise and the bang that you hear when you pull the trigger. But they do nothing to mitigate the noise created by the report of the actual bullet traveling through the air. And we've run scientific tests with folks at Central Michigan University and a group of scientists up there. And the noise of the bullet breaking the sound barrier is only moderately quieter than the actual noise of the report of the firearm. So if you're anywhere past 50 or 100 meters away from the actual shooter, the noise is going to sound the same as it would with or without the suppressor.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Williams? Representative Hepler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And actually, Mr. Williams, thank you for that. And I'm not sure if this is a question for you or for Colonel Scott, but I heard reference to like buying a suppressor for a firearm. Is there a different process or an additional process for if you want to use it for a hunting piece of equipment?
No, ma'am. It's the same process. Everyone who purchases for any particular reason has to go through the Form 4 process with ATF.
Okay. And then a follow-up, if I can. So would that information also be given to the state, just since IFW regulates, hunting, and would they know who has a suppressor? I guess, yeah.
No, ma'am. So it's actually a tax document, so it is federally protected. However, if they were to encounter someone misusing a firearm, they can reach out to ATF, and ATF can pull those records very easily.
So the representative, the federal process that he described, that's to purchase a suppressor, whether you're going to use it for hunting or shooting sports or something else. That's just to have one and possess it. If you then decide that because there was a law in the books prior to 2015 that you could not hunt with one, whether you possessed it or not. In 2015, we passed a law that said you could now hunt with one if you go through a separate Title 12 background check with the state of Maine, because we do not report our violations to the federal or state Bureau of Investigation or the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So we want to see if we're going to allow folks to hunt with a suppressed rifle or firearm that they don't have an extensive history of fishing game in the state of Maine. So that was the requirement through our department, and that's the requirement that's looking to be repealed. So you would still have to go through the federal process in order to obtain the suppressor that Mr. Williams described, but you could then, once you legally obtained it from the federal government, you could hunt with it without having further interaction with our department.
Are there other questions for Mr. Williams? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony this morning.
Thanks, sir.
Next is Joseph Mullen. Welcome, Mr. Mullen.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Am I coming through okay?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman, honorable members of the committee. My name is Joe Mullen. I'm from Grafton, Massachusetts, and I'm the Northeastern States Assistant Manager for the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation. I appear before you this morning to express my support for LD 635. A lot of the points I planned on touching upon have been discussed by the Colonel and Knox Williams. So, I've also submitted written testimony to the committee. So as for right now, I'd just like to touch upon some of the high-level points. LD 635 poses to remove a cumbersome process in the way of sportsmen and women utilizing their suppressors afield, thus posing to protect current and future generations of hunters from hearing damage. Suppressors have increasingly become a popular form of hearing protection for sportsmen and women around the nation. The ATF's April 2020 report stated that there are over 2 million suppressors in the United States. Contrary to what is portrayed on television and in the movies, suppressors do not, in fact, silence the report of firearms, but rather, as was discussed, trap and coolly expanding gases. However, based on misconceptions from television and movies, it raises concerns for increases of poaching, which is what those who are opposed to this legislation usually state, despite the fact that states that have recently legalized their use have seen no reportable increases in poaching. This is largely due to the fact that suppressors are such highly regulated devices, as has been discussed already. The critical component of all of this is that suppressors protect recreational shooters, hunters, and hunting dogs from harmful damage, to their hearing and/or loss. I know we discussed the process that one must go through in order to get a suppressor, but for those in Maine, who hope to use their suppressors while pursuing game and have already gone through this lengthy process, they must then submit the application to the department to get that additional permit. then authorizing them to go hunting, adding more time and strain on the department as well as the hunters themselves. Of the 40 states that presently authorize suppressors to be used for hunting, Maine is the only state to require this additional step, which follows the exhaustive check at the federal level on all of those stages. So once again, I would just like to reiterate my support for LD 635. I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Representative Lightfoot.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Williams, do you think it's a double standard? I mean, if you're approved to buy a suppressor and you pass a background check, that should pretty much be the end of it. That, now that the Warden Service has dropped off the fee, they must be relaxed with the idea that there are suppressors out there and they're not that concerned about night hunting. I mentioned the Boy Scouts. I don't know how the Scouts are using them because you can't certainly do a background check on Boy Scouts. So maybe you could comment on the possibility of, going. The complaints I ran into is that the state having a list of who had them. That was when it was passed. Thank you.
Sure. To just answer one of your statements there about the Scouts, it's likely that they're with someone who has gone through this entire process to purchase the suppressors, get their stamp for those suppressors, and maybe at the range, under the guidance of someone who is, legally authorized to have that suppressor, for recreational shooting. Now, if that suppressor owner were to go hunting, they would have to go through this additional step, which, is just added time and money for both the hunter and the department.
Representative Lightfoot, if I understood it correctly from Colonel Scott, is that they did not have a list of who had suppressors through the ATF. Only if someone wanted to hunt with them, then it would go to them for a permit. So I think that alleviates the question about ATF, but I would turn to Colonel Scott to answer that.
Sure. We only have a list of those people that apply for the permit. There may be 10 times as many suppressors in the state for people who don't hunt. I have no idea. We know who's applied for us and who we've approved. And as far as our concerns around illegal hunting with them, they do still stand. And that's why this bill does not eliminate the aggravated penalty if you're convicted of a crime while hunting with one. But as far as the administrative process of going through the additional Fish and Wildlife background check, we support the elimination of that.
Great, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Mullen? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next is Lauren LePage, followed by Julianne Smith.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Senator Dill, Representative Landry, distinguished members of the committee, my name is Lauren LePage and I'm the state director for the National Rifle Association here in Maine. I'm here today in support of LD 635, sponsored by Senator Stewart, and we want to thank both Senator Stewart, Commissioner Camuso, and the department for supporting this legislation. Much of my testimony that you've received in written copy has echoed many of the topics that have been discussed by both Joe and Knox. That probably isn't shocking to the committee. So I'll be very brief and just say, of the 40 states that allow hunting with a suppressor, Maine is the only one that requires this additional permit. And I think it was out of an abundance of caution when the original law was passed in 2015. But there are numerous benefits to hunting with suppressed firearms, including improved accuracy, eliminating noise complaints, and reduction in hunter hearing loss. And it's again important to remember that this doesn't silence the device. Suppressors reduce the noise of a gunshot by roughly 20 to 25 decibels, which is roughly the same reduction as earplugs or earmuffs. And lastly, this does not change the federal laws around the extensive background checks that one who is trying to obtain a suppressor has to go through. So I think that probably echoes what they've said and sums up my testimony. But on behalf of NRA's thousands of members in Maine, we urge you to support this important piece of legislation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Representative Hepler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. LePage. So I caught something you said, and I guess I just want some clarification about improved accuracy. Can you talk more about that?
Yes, I can. Let me pull up here. So basically what happens is when you discharge a firearm, it's very normal for the shooter to sort of anticipate the recoil that's going to come from that shot. So the suppressor just kind of lessens that a little bit. So you're a little less, I don't want to say anxiety, but you have a little less sort of bump or pushback from the discharge of the firearm. But I'm happy to get you more information on that.
Oh, thank you. That helps. Thanks.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next is Julianne Smith.
Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative Landry, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. My name is Julie Ann Smith, and I am the Executive Director of Maine Farm Bureau Association, the state's largest farmer-run advocacy organization. We've represented the voice of all agriculture in Maine since 1951, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to serve as the voice of our farmers today to support LD 635. As farmers, we are deeply concerned and mindful of how we interact with wildlife. Maintaining the delicate balance between food production and a healthy habitat for all living creatures is of utmost concern to us. But there are many occasions where we need to hunt nuisance wildlife at night when they are visible and causing damage to our crops. Many farmers utilize noise suppression devices to hunt nuisance wildlife, especially at night, to mitigate raising the concerns and ire of our neighbors. Being able to use noise suppression devices without having to first apply for a permit would be extremely beneficial to Maine's farmers. We respectfully urge you to support LD 635 to help the farmers of Maine protect their crops and land to continue feeding the people of Maine. I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony. And Linda, that's all I have on my list. Is that correct? Oops, hold it. We have one question here. Representative Lightfoot.
Thank you, Senator Dale. Just wanted to ask Colonel Scott, for each suppressor, if you use different suppressors on different guns, you do have to have a permit for each one of those. Is that correct?
Right. For each individual one purchased, you have to go through a separate federal process. You wouldn't have to go if you already had a approval through us, you wouldn't, but you need a separate process, a separate ATF form, and I'm not sure, but likely a separate background check for each one. Maybe Mr. Knox can answer that better than me.
But I don't need every time I put a different hunting gun, take a different hunting gun, I don't need to come to you for a permit, right?
No, sir.
One permit covers everything.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I will close the hearing on LD 635 and open up the hearing on LD 666, an act to lower the youth hunting age. And Representative White of Mars Hill is introducing the bill. Representative White, would you unmute yourself and turn on your camera? And thank you. There you are.
Absolutely. Give me 1 second here just to pull up my documents here.
Sure.
All right, perfect. I'm ready when you are.
Go for it.
All right, Senator Dill, Representative Landry, and distinguished members of the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee. My name is State Representative Dustin Michael White, and I reside in Mars Hill, representing 10 towns in Central Aroostook County. I appear before you this morning to present to you LD 666, an act to lower the youth hunting age. I submitted this bill for many reasons, one of which is I believe in parents knowing their children better than the government. This bill, if enacted into law, would not supersede a parent's ability to make the decision whether or not their child is mature enough and responsible enough to safely hunt on their own or to allow them to do so. I trust in our parents' ability to make that judgment call when the time comes. I would not like to limit a child's ability with a blanket one-size-fits-all solution to youth hunting. We know children mature at different ages. In fact, some children grow up in active hunting households and gain much more experience earlier on in their lives. Secondly, I think of a scenario that is oftentimes overlooked by lawmakers. Think of the single parent with multiple hunting age children and youth day has arrived. The parent must choose which child gets to hunt on youth day this year, as all three fitting in the same deer stand and 2 deer walking through at the same time is very unlikely. making it difficult for both children to tag out on Youth Day. This law would allow a child 14 to 15 years old to sit in a stand by themselves while the parent sits with the child 14 and under elsewhere nearby, therefore increasing the likelihood of at least one child getting a deer. I look at this bill as a chance to educate our children at an earlier age to teach them the proper safety protocols as well as Maine's hunting laws, possibly reducing the likelihood of accidents or hunting violations later on in their lives. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions you may have, and I'll also be available for the work session if you so choose.
Are there any questions for Representative White? All right, seeing none. Thank you for introducing the bill.
Thank you.
Next up for the department, I believe, is Colonel Scott again.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative Landry, and members of the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee. I'm Dan Scott, Colonel of the Warden Service, speaking on behalf of IFW, speaking neither for nor against LD 666. This bill allows a person who holds a junior hunting license, who has completed a relevant hunter safety course and is at least 14 years of age, to hunt without being accompanied by or under the direct supervision of a junior hunter supervisor. The age in which a hunter can hunt without adult supervision has been 16 for decades in Maine. I'm not sure why the age was chosen, but it is also the same age a person may apply for their driver's license. If a parent feels confident that their son or daughter between the ages of 14 and 16 years old who have completed their hunter safety course can safely hunt, navigate the woods, make good judgment calls in terms of safe and ethical shots, then perhaps the age will work. However, being ready and capable to hunt safely can depend on many factors and scenarios. There are many considerations to make outside of the firearm safety aspect. Hunting on a small, familiar piece of acreage versus still hunting in the big woods with a greater risk of becoming lost. Sitting in the ground blind versus climbing in and out of a tree stand with a firearm in hand, as well as I think a lot of people think of youth hunting as just that, sitting in a ground blind looking over a green field. But this would also permit two 14-year-olds to climb into a canoe, one behind the other with shotguns, and go out paddling across a stream or a flowage, duck hunting. All these factors influence the overall safety of the hunt. IFW has documented a handful of fatal hunting incidents involving teens. It is difficult to predict if there would be an increase in incidents if people 14 to 16 years of age were able to hunt on their own after having completed a safety course. Additionally, if this bill were to pass as written, it will add more complexity to how a hunter 16 and younger can hunt, whether it be with or without a safety course, with or without adult supervision, and if supervised, there will still be varying ways in which they must be supervised depending on their age. Here are some examples. Under 10 years of age must be accompanied by a supervisor who is within 20 feet at all times. 10 to 13 must be under the effective control of a junior hunter supervisor. 14 yet under 16 with no safety course must be under effective control of a junior hunter supervisor. 14 to under 16 with a safety course may hunt unaccompanied. A 16-year-old still hunting under the authority of their junior hunting license with no safety course must be under the effective control of a junior hunter supervisor, and 16-year-old with a safety course and an adult license can hunt unaccompanied. I know we're always trying to simplify our Title 12 laws, and that wouldn't be much easier, but I'll be glad to answer any questions at this time or during the work session. Thank you.
Representative Danny Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colonel, I realize that and understand that your position, the department's position, is neither for nor against, but I'm hearing in your testimony some concerns regarding safety. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. We were careful to put in there the fact that, like the representative mentioned, that parents have an ultimate decision of who is responsible and who's not. I have 4 kids of my own, and it's a coin toss on any given day who's responsible and who's not. What we're trying to highlight is there's a lot more that should be considered than just can I drop my daughter off in a tree stand early morning deer season and I go to another one a few hundred yards away. Hunting incorporates stumbling around the woods, still hunting, duck hunting, night hunting, and it's just, there's more things to consider than just, I think, what people envision as sitting in a ground blind watching a green field.
Thank you. If I may, Mr. Chair, follow up.
Sure.
So you have young adults in your family at Colonel. Would you allow them to hunt if they're 14 years old?
Unaccompanied? No, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the Colonel? All right, seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. The next two I have on my list is Lauren LePage and David Trahan. So I will start with Lauren LePage. Introduce yourself again, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Senator Dill, Representative Landry, distinguished members of the committee. My name is Lauren LePage, and I'm the state director for the National Rifle Association in Maine. Testifying in support of LD 666 this morning. LD 666 allows a person who holds a junior hunting license, has completed relevant hunter safety courses, and is at least 14 years old to hunt without a supervisor. Considering the number of hunters have declined significantly in the past couple decades, we must do everything we can to reverse this trend. We believe this bill will help do that. Youth engagement is key to having adult hunters. Adult hunters then turn around and mentor young hunters to create the next generation of hunters. A little bit about the NRA and sort of some of the safety resources we have out there. NRA offers the Youth Hunter Education Challenge, which provides a fun environment for kids under 18 to improve their hunting, marksmanship, and safety skills. This program provides simulated hunting situations, a live fire exercise, and educational and responsibility events to build upon skills learned in basic hunter education courses. It encourages safer lifelong hunting habits. The NRA actually created the original hunter education program in the 1940s. And today we've created a modern, fun, interactive, state-of-the-art online hunter education course to recruit the next generation of hunters. So on behalf of our members, we urge you to support LD 666. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. LePage? Representative Hepler.
Thank you, and thank you again, Ms. LePage. So one of the questions that's come up with constituents, and I'm asking for your help in trying to answer that, is the argument about, there's been a decline in hunting and we have to, the state needs to step in to reverse that. Is that, how do I answer that question? Is like, why is it the state's responsibility to increase hunting, for instance, rather than say canoeing or hiking or whatnot?
Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah, I totally understand your question. I'll do my best to answer it, but please feel free to ask me as a follow-up. I think the importance is, hunting is incredibly important for herd management and conservation. You certainly do not want to see a decline in hunters so bad that your herds start to get sick or ill or unhealthy. So that would be the first response. The second response is, I think the department does a very good job and has put a lot of resources behind encouraging youth hunting. I certainly agree with that, but I think it's important to also recognize that the younger we can get these kids in the woods, the more likely they're gonna turn into adult hunters, furthering that sort of policy perspective behind ensuring healthy herd management, if that helps at all.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Up next, we have David Trahan, and I would just like to say that I have him down for testifying for LD 666, but I understand he was also here for 635, and somehow he didn't get on my list. And, we always have glitches with this new system, so I will call on Mr. Trahan to testify on LD 666. And then if he so desires, I will make an exception and let him certainly testify or at least present anything he'd like to on LD 635 if there's something new that he'd like to address. So with that, Mr. Trahan.
Senator Dill, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. I I won't go back on the previous bill other than to say we do support it. I very much appreciate you putting that on the record. So with that, I'll end right there.
Okay,
Senator Dill, Representative Landry, members of the committee, Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee. I'm testifying neither for nor against on LD 666, an act to lower the youth hunting age. Without reiterating the department's comments, I would just add something that hasn't been said yet. There was another bill not too many years ago that lowered the age in which, to 0, in which youth can hunt with their guardians. If the committee does have concerns with this bill, you might want to consider my testimony from that bill, where I stated that it might make some sense to allow small game hunting, bird hunting or whatever, rabbit hunting, if there's reluctance along, the committee, around, just broadly lowering the age. So with that, we have some of the similar concerns that the department has, but certainly we want to encourage younger people to get involved in hunting. So with that, I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Trahan? All right, seeing none, that is all I have for folks to testify on LD 666. So I will close the hearing. Before I do, though, I did neglect to ask if there's any other co-sponsors, which are mostly all on this committee, if they wanted to say anything on the bill. I'm sure they would have spoken up if they did. All right, so I will close the hearing on LD 666 and open up the hearing on LD 692, an act to establish the Operation Game Thief Fund and allow an applicant for a state hunting or fishing license to make a donation to prevent illegal hunting and fishing. Representative Ordway.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator Dill, and Representative Landry and my colleagues on Inland Fisheries. This bill, well intended. I thought it was a pretty good bill when I put it in, but there's some issues with the bill that I'll try to explain. One of the things that Operation Game Thief does very well is try to reward folks for turning in bad actors. Great program. Unfortunately, it's not a state sponsored, or it's not part of a state organization. They're on their own. So while this bill would direct state money to a non-state agency, so to speak, Operation Game Thief has learned that the department has and will oppose it, and they understand, and I understand why the department opposes it, because of the non-affiliation totally with a state organization, and it would be very difficult to do. Well, I think that we all, in some way, really do support the mission of Operation Game Thief. This probably isn't the best vehicle to show them support. So with that, I reluctantly would ask that we kill the bill, and maybe some way get the word out that the Operation Game Thief needs some financial support. This just probably isn't the vehicle to do it with. And I want to thank everybody over at Operation Game Thief for all their work. With that, I'll answer any questions I can, but unfortunately, I think this was not the right bill. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Lightfoot.
Representative Ordway, I want to thank you for that information, because I didn't realize it was on its own now. So I appreciate that update. Thank you.
Senator Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for, what is the history with Operation Game Thief these days? I remember when it was with Unity College back in the mid 90s. Where is it operated out of?
I can't answer that other than the head of the chair of the Operation Game Thief, Greg Serpis, is out of Standish here, and that's how I know him. He served on the town council here, and he's been my contact. Maybe the commissioner or Colonel Scott could answer more about the program.
Yeah, we're going to have Deputy Commissioner Peabody come in to testify next, so you can probably save that question for him. Are there any other questions for Representative Ordway? Seeing none, thank you, Representative, for introducing that. I will turn to Representative, the motion for you there, Deputy Commissioner Peabody. Would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning, Senator Dill, Representative Landry, and members of the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife Committee. I'm Tim Peabody, Deputy Commissioner at the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, speaking in opposition to LD 692. The bill creates an Operation Game Thief Fund within the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to collect money donated to a voluntary checkoff system on state hunting and fishing licenses to support the organizations that work to prevent poaching and introduction of non-native fish to lakes and ponds and streams in Maine by offering rewards to individuals who report violations. It also directs the Commissioner of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to establish the checkoff system on the online and paper hunting and fishing license applications. The department, and specifically the Maine Warden Service, are extremely grateful for the invaluable partnership that Maine Operation Game Thief has provided as a nonprofit organization since 1989. Maine OGT works hand in hand with game wardens and Marine Patrol officers to provide anonymous tips and information that ultimately helps apprehend poachers of fishing game and marine species, also people who illegally stock ponds, and the damage and dumping on private land. Their success as an organization is commendable. The department has concerns about the requirements of LD 692 to set up a special revenue account as well as a voluntary donation checkoff on electronic and paper license. We currently have no other special accounts where we administer all of the finances, then pass all the money to another organization. The administrative expense for our department and the Natural Resource Service Center, as well as opening the door to other organizations to provide the same service, is a concern to us. We currently do and will continue to support Maine Operation Game Thief with department staff time at various events and fundraisers, as well as providing information on our website and a direct link to the Maine OGT website. They're a great organization and a strong partner in conservation in Maine. Full disclosure, the 10 years I was at Unity College, I spent 8 years sitting on the board as an officer on the board for Operation Game Thief. I'm a personal fan. They're a commendable group, and I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Are there any questions for Deputy Commissioner Peabody? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on 692. Yes, Tim, I was going to go in to see if anybody wanted to make a motion. So after we close the public hearing. So we closed the public hearing. Is anyone interested in making a motion to suspend the rules and go right into work session?
So moved. So moved.
Yep, it's been moved and seconded, moved by Representative Martin and seconded by Representative Terrio, that we go right into work session. All right, so I'll open up a work session on LD 692, an act to establish the Operation Game Thief Fund and allow an applicant for a state hunting or fishing license to make a donation to prevent illegal hunting and fishing. Does someone want to make a motion? Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As much as I hate to try to kill a bill for my good friend Representative Ordway, I would move ought not to pass on 692.
It's been moved ought not to pass. Is there a second? Representative Terrio? Seconded by Representative Terrio. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Linda, would you please call the roll?
Yes, starting with Representative Lyford.
Ought not to pass.
Representative Mason,
Yes.
Representative Hepler,
Yes.
Senator Curry. You're muted, sir.
Yes.
Senator Dill,
Yes.
Representative Landry,
Yes.
Representative Terrio,
Yes.
Representative Danny Martin,
Yes.
Representative Ordway.
With extreme regrets, yes.
Representative Ali,
Yes.
Representative Nadeau,
Yes.
and Representative John Martin.
Yes.
So that makes it 12 in favor of ought not to pass with 1 absent.
Okay, with 12 ought not to pass, 1 absent, LD 692 is ought not to pass. So with that, John, is there anything else to come before us? Oh, excuse me, I'll close the work session first and then anything to come before us, John?
Nope, I think you're all set.
All set. Linda, anything from you? Nope. Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
It's been moved by the second Representative Landry, seconded by Representative Alley. All in favor, just raise your hand. Thank you. None opposed. And we'll see you sometime. Next week, we will not have a meeting on the 31st. Just so you know, there's stuff scheduled, but yeah, I don't know if you all, I assume everybody got the letter that we've been asked to cancel meetings on the 30th.